Hello and welcome to the Call for Help show with attorney Paul Rebein. Also here in this studio with me are my co-hosts Brenda Fruster and Robin Lockett. How's everybody doing today?
Hi, very good.
Hello.
I want to thank all our listeners on WTMP. This will be airing Saturday morning, but right now we're live on Facebook Live. I do want to mention that as of last week, we do have a podcast on all of the major platforms, including Apple Podcasts. So if you don't get a chance to catch us on Facebook Live or on WTMP, you can always go back and listen to the episodes on our podcast, which is available on iTunes and also Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and a number of other platforms. Today, I want to talk about something that happened this week in our community that is a tragedy, a real tragedy. Unfortunately, it's a tragedy that seems to be happening more and more frequently in our country. And what I'm referring to is a mass shooting. We had a mass shooting here in Lakeland, which is just outside of Tampa. It's a little bit different situation than what we've seen in some of the other cases, but there's also a lot of similarities. In this case, a military veteran, someone who had been in the Marines and in the reserves and served in Afghanistan and Iraq, named Brian Riley, became delusional. He worked as a security guard. He's no longer in the military. He lived in Brandon with his girlfriend, but she reported that after he went to a religious service in Orlando as part of his job as a security guard, he reported that he could now speak to God and that God was speaking directly to him, initially telling him that he needed to help the victims of Hurricane Ida, and he was going to buy supplies to bring there. Although, strangely, what he bought was $1,000 worth of cigars. It doesn't make sense, but obviously the guy was delusional. But last week he thought that God was telling him that someone named Amber, a young child, was suicidal, and that it was his job to save her. And he drove to a home in Lakeland and asked the person outside for Amber, and they said that there was no Amber there, and said, you need to leave or we're going to call the police. Ultimately, they did call the police, and he left, but the police looked for him. The sheriff's deputies looked for him but could not find him. So he went home back to Brandon and told his girlfriend that this encounter had upset him, and they had an argument, and he went into his man cave, is what she called it, and she went to bed. But she woke up the next morning and he was gone. What he did was he put on military gear, put on bulletproof vests, brought a bunch of weapons and ammunition, and went to this home in Lakeland and killed the grandmother, the father, the mother, and a little baby, as well as the family dog. And then he shot the girl, the 11-year-old girl that I guess he thought was Amber, 7 times, but shockingly, she played dead, and she survived. The police then arrived, and there was a gun battle where he was actually shot, and he returned fire at the police. Ultimately, he surrendered and was taken into custody, and then taken to the hospital because he had been shot, where he tried to grab a gun of an officer there at the hospital and had to be restrained. We all in our community know Sheriff Grady Judd and what kind of things he says, that he's very controversial, but he had a press conference that where he said, talked about the fact that, he surrendered. He said he came out with his hands up. That's why there was no further gunfire. It would have been nice if he came out with a gun, and then we'd have been able to read a newspaper through him, and we'd have a different conversation here this morning. So, got a lot of attention in the media. It raises a number of issues, starting with talking to God. I've talked to people who believe that God was talking to them, but it seemed to me they were delusional. But on the other hand, I do believe that God does speak to you.
Oh, yes.
There's an issue. Mental illness is an issue. I think he had a mass of weapons, including like an AR-15 assault rifle. So that issue comes up. He was wearing body armor, camouflage. And then, of course, just the comments of the sheriff afterwards, was that appropriate? So I want to get a conversation going here, starting with my co-host. What are your thoughts about this? Let's start with you, Pastor Brenda.
Yes, I have issues on several levels. One of them, I do know that mental health is a real problem. It is a very serious problem. It's been a problem that we as citizens have ignored as if it's not there. And it's only when it comes out of our home do we now take it serious and we want to look into it. So that's number one issue. Mental health is serious. Number two, hearing from God. I do know that there's a lot of people that are saying, God spoke to me, God spoke to me. But my question will always be, how did you distinguish that was the voice of God? Because Satan has a voice as well. And Satan has always tried to mimic God. It will sound like God, but it's not God. The Bible tells us in John chapter 10, he says, my sheep, no, this is Jesus speaking. He says, my sheep knows my voice, and another they will not follow. The third part of this is God is not going to instruct us to kill. We can read the word from Genesis to Revelation, and in hearing the voice of God, he's not going to tell you to kill. The person that will tell you to kill is Satan. When Jesus was tempted in the wilderness, it was Satan that appeared to him. He told him, throw yourself down, do this, do that. He gave Jesus many instructions to do, but they were all about destruction. My last point on this is John 10:10 says that the thief has come only to steal, to kill, and to destroy. God is not the thief. Satan is the thief. So we have to separate the natural from the supernatural. We need to separate your voice from the voice of God and know the difference.
Yeah. Robin, what's been going through your mind this week as you think about this tragedy?
If he was black, he wouldn't be alive. That's one, whether he had a gun or not, and whether he had his hands up or not. There would have been, and especially if a baby's involved, 9 times out of 10, he wouldn't have been alive. Mental health, we have to take that seriously. Guns, the guns that's in our community, that's in the community, more so in our community, and drugs. They say that he was high on meth. Drugs, drugs is a serious problem. So you put drugs with, I think they're saying he has PTSD.
Yep.
Those are big factors. And I said this jokingly before we signed on. Everybody want to blame it on God, right? So whether he believed it, whether he's a believer, that's just like on the side, because that's not important to me. Because everything else, the drugs, the PTSD, the mental health, all of those things are more important.
Yeah. Well, I invite all of our listeners who are watching us on Facebook to post your comments. What do you think about these issues? I did take a look at the Twitter feed about this case, and I want to just read a few of them. Not that I agree with all of them or whatever, but just give you an idea of what people are saying. So somebody said more gun violence thanks to the Second Amendment. Somebody said he killed 4 people, had a firefight with officers, and was taken alive. He then tried to take the officer's gun at the hospital. Let me guess his race. A lot of people were making that comment, the point that you made, Robin, and I think we should talk about it. About a lot of people were saying that they didn't think that if he had been an African American, that he would have made it out of there alive. To me, the case does show that police can use restraint and, can diffuse situations without immediately, pulling out the gun and trying to kill somebody. Although they did shoot at him a lot of times, so I guess you could say that they were trying to shoot him. Somebody else says, why didn't the cops leave a patrol car outside their house after, he came the first time? I don't know. I think police probably get a lot of strange calls or whatever. I wouldn't expect them to just post somebody there. He didn't say he was going to do anything particular, but that's an issue. Somebody said, sad and tragic. We see Second Amendment comments, political comments, God comments about the governor. Let's remember innocent people died. Have some respect. I agree with that. Another issue is, was this guy really responsible? If he really was out of his mind and if you really believe that God was talking to him, is he legally responsible? I'm sure whatever attorneys are appointed to hire him are going to be making that argument. Somebody else said they'll sell guns to anyone here. Insane.
But see, that falls right into the fray of things, right? So let's say that he is legally insane, right? He was out of it. Drugs is a factor. They shouldn't have guns. And was he for the PTSD and or anything else that he was dealing with? Was he receiving mental health?
Yeah.
The fact that he shot over 80 bullets. This is what Grady Judge said. I think he shot over 80 bullets. His officers shot maybe, it was a real low number, maybe 40 or something of that nature, but he shot more bullets than the officers. So to your point, Paul, they can show restraint. But if he's not all there and he's having a mental episode, then all of those factors, the idea that he had a gun, lots of guns.
Yep.
Lots of guns.
Well, the way I'm thinking about it is, if somebody is completely delusional, that's a factor. And I've encountered people like this before. I'm sure you guys have too, who do think that God is talking to them, or that the FBI is following them around 24 hours a day. And you cannot rationally get them to believe that that's not happening. But on the other hand, this guy went back home and came back in the middle of the night. If you were that delusional, like, oh, I got to save this girl, you would have done something right there. It's almost as if he knew enough to go back home. And also, it's like, why did you kill these people if you were trying to save her? Why did you shoot the girl?
So does it say that he tried to save her?
They said that he thought that he was calling her Amber.
But and he said that God said that she was going to commit suicide.
Right.
Amber was, yes.
Yeah. So what was he never said that he was there to save her.
Yeah, I mean, he shot her. And let's take a minute and just say a quick prayer for,
a brave girl,
the whole family, but especially this girl. 11 years old. Her entire family is gone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen to her, but we pray for her, and I'm sure that her entire family is just devastated.
Yes.
So our thoughts are out with this family. Hopefully, there's some sort of GoFundMe page that we could donate to, or somehow help this girl. But she's got a long road ahead of her. But
Kind of long journey. Yeah.
pretty smart to
Yeah.
play dead.
Yes.
Absolutely. The other side of this disillusional that I don't buy into, there were more details that he cut the tires of a sedan, he cut the tires of his own truck, and then he set his own truck on fire to divert the officers. A disillusional person is not going to do all that. I mean,
Right.
you're on a mission. You're on a mission to either rescue Amber or destroy Amber. Whatever that mission was, that's your mission. But why do you feel that you have to throw out all evidence? And then the other part was, once he got shot, that's when he surrendered. Okay. Before that, you've killed all these people. You didn't feel sorry for them at all. You didn't give up nothing. But now that you got shot, okay, I'm surrendering. I'm coming out because I might die. Shoot the kill.
And he brought body armor. He had body armor on, and he brought the first aid blood clotting stuff, which apparently he used on himself. I think that's going to be, all that stuff is going to play into the prosecution's argument that, okay, maybe you thought God was talking to you, but you were rational enough to know how to get back to this house, to get all your body armor, and you planned all this. And I'm sure his girlfriend must be dealing with some guilt beyond belief, and that's a question for me. Okay, you're dealing with somebody close to you who's going through mental illness or a struggle. At what point do you Baker Act them? At what point do you call the police? And it didn't say that this happened here, but I know people that Baker acted people, and they just came right back out time after time and time again. And I could see people getting, frustrated with the whole process of, okay, you're holding this person for 3 days, but it keeps happening over and over and over again. We really don't, in my opinion, don't have a good mental health system here in Florida. And the Baker Act system is good, but it doesn't really work. And then, a lot of the people are probably, end up in jail, and they're not really helping them at all. We're getting some comments that Stephanie's saying that she thinks there must be something wrong with the girlfriend. I don't know. I mean, it sounded like maybe this happened recently, and you don't want to. I could see her not wanting to get him in trouble or face him or whatever he might do to her. But I saw something that she was actually, I guess when she heard about it, she was like tracking where his phone was, and that's where it was, where the incident happened. So I'm sure she wishes that she had done something more to alert the authorities of what he was doing.
But Paul and Robin and our listeners, my experience, and I've had as Lady Robin was sharing with us earlier, I've had a personal experience as well within my family. There are signs. You see signs. Some of them are more obvious than the others, but there are signs. If there is a anxiety attack coming, there's a mental challenge, schizophrenic, whatever it is that is happening in their mind, you see change because now their thinking and their thoughts, their words are different than it was before. So there are signs, and sometimes people just ignore those signs. They live in denial until something tragically happens. But I believe Well, I not only do I believe, I know that there are signs. You see it.
Yeah.
So how many times would someone come from the service and start talking like this, or say that, because he was a security guard and worked at a church or something of that nature, but how many times would someone disregard it because of the PTSD?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So how many times would that happen? Evidently, he walked sane plenty of the days because he was working and so forth. So he wasn't walking and deranged 24 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
So they have episodes where they're in that space for X amount of time, and then they come out of it, right? If they're on their medication and so forth, but they have episodes. So maybe the time that he left that family's house, he was in an episode, and went home and came back. He was in that in that episode. It's a serious. Yep, they are functional.
Yeah,
they are functional.
Oh, and then there's the meth. I don't know if he said he was on meth, and I've never taken meth myself, but
me neither.
And I don't want to, especially if it makes you like this. But apparently, maybe it does cause psychosis to a certain extent, and that's scary.
Yeah.
Especially people who do have a lot of weapons. Robin, when we first talked about this, we talked about would they have had a chance if they had guns in the house? I don't know if they had guns in the house or not, but I know a lot of the Second Amendment supporters would say that they wish they had weapons in the house. And it really makes you think about that this is just random. This is like somebody that you don't even know is coming in off the street. And I would, I believe that if you're going to have this many guns in the street, that you might need it for protection yourself.
Oh, I feel the same way. I mean, nobody's business, but I live by myself.
Don't go in Robin's house. She will be ready for you.
But it makes me think because this world is, when the pandemic happened, a lot of white people started buying guns, right? They were getting prepared for something. And
I think a lot of people started buying it, not just white people, but a lot of people buy guns.
Well, so this is the conversation the community was having.
Okay.
Right? This is the conversation the community was having. So and the biggest thing about that is whenever you see something happening like that, something is over the horizon because they know something that we don't.
Right.
So at that time I was like, I'm scared of guns. I'd lock my door and so forth. But looking at this incident, it was random. It was so right now what we know, it was random.
Yes.
They have no connection with one another. Right?
Yep.
Yes.
But it's serious that you have to protect yourself. You really do. You have to protect yourself.
Yes. And that's scary.
Yeah.
They could have called the police, and there's nothing they could have done to stop it. Apparently there was an officer who was a short distance away who heard the shots and came immediately.
Yeah.
So, they're calling the police isn't necessarily going to protect you. But it's really sad and really scary that you need you need to even think this way, that you might need to protect yourself. And, the other issue is PTSD. I don't know what experience this guy had when he went to Afghanistan and Iraq, but, if he was in active combat and killed or saw people be killed over there, what does that do to you? And what responsibility do we have, the country that sent him there to do that?
Exactly.
To make sure he gets the care he needs. So there's a lot of questions that's still left to be answered.
That would fall back to him putting his car, setting his car on fire, Army, all that other stuff. But I really think that individuals that go to the service and they come back home, if they have mental issues or whatever, if they're affected from that service, I think they should get everything free because they put their life on line. Healthcare, the best healthcare. I think they should, if they are no longer able to work and so forth, they should get a house. I really do, because they've made that sacrifice to keep us safe. Keep us safe.
And they do get. There are benefits. There are veterans that receive benefits from once they retire, they receive it. I was thinking of, as they are exiting, and you see these mental challenges, allow them to exit, but allow them to go into a facility that can further help them before they get back into society. Because once they're in society, now it's my choice of whether I want to go to a facility for further care. But as you are exiting and we see these challenges and we know what you have been through, before you go home, we're going to take you to this facility to get checked out, to be seen. 30 days, not 3 days, 30 days. Let's watch you.
That's too much of the right thing.
Yeah.
It won't happen. That's too much of the right thing.
Now,
exactly.
I do want to speak to the sheriff's comments, though. And he's known for making these kind of inflammatory statements. But to me, everybody is rightfully angry at this person and situation. But it's just not a professional thing that the sheriff should be saying, that we wish that, he had come out and we had killed him. I don't know. To me, that he says a lot of these things, and it's almost like, let me take this situation and get some attention for myself. It's not helping the situation. Maybe people hearing that think, I agree with that. I wish we had done that. But I'm not entirely comfortable with a sheriff who's wishing that his officers had killed somebody, especially in the environment we're in today, where police officers are killing people in different situations, and we certainly don't want to encourage them to do that. But back to Robin's comments, is it true that if this guy had been black, that he would not have made it out alive?
Absolutely. You don't have to finish that sentence. Absolutely. And that's probably why the sheriff made that remark, because he knew that people were going to be making that comment.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a situation. I can think of a lot of situations where where white mass shooters surrendered. There was the guy in South Carolina. There was the guy in the grocery store recently.
Yeah.
I can't really think of that many African-American mass shooters, but I certainly can't think of any that survived the attack. So
we're not big on the mass shooting, but we're big on, you pull me over, I got drugs in the car, or I got an outstanding order against me. I take off running and I shoot at you. I run in the woods. When I come out, I'm dead. I'm not alive. And all I had was a tag that had expired, driver's license expired. I mean, things like that. And then we come up dead. And it's like, dude, you came out alive. You got shot in the stomach and you came out with your hand. You already knew the process. I'm going to come out with my hands up. They already know I surrender. Dude, come on. You're alive. And I don't agree with the statement. I think every professional level has their limited comments, especially out public. But as you stated, Judd is one of those kind of guys, just say whatever you want to.
Yeah, there was a shooting a couple years ago where a black man was in Lakeland, and they riddled him they shot him so many times, I think over 60 times.
Yeah.
Yep. I forgot what he did.
I think he was in the woods I remember this case that, and I think he made a similar comment about being able to read a newspaper through him. Grady Judd, feels like he rules Polk County and does. And I remember I sued him, and I had to go over there, and I'm like, God, I hope I don't get pulled over.
Okay.
So, well, our time is coming to an end. We thank all of our listeners, and again, our prayers are with this family, and we're pulling for this little girl. We're going to continue to follow her story, but we're praying for her. We're praying for the family. Please download our podcast on iTunes, like and support this, what we're doing here, and we will see you all next week. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.